Which of the 16 personalities are the most likable? Does your personality type have that je ne sais quoi that puts it towards the top of the likability leaderboard? Or is your personality just like, dude, we do not like you? So I stumbled upon this article on yahoo.com. The 6 most likable Myers-Briggs personality types according to experts, so-called. And you know who these experts are: relationship experts, matchmakers, and people who know a lot about Myers-Briggs. But I thought that this article was very interesting because it relies so heavily on stereotypes that I wanted to react to it and bust some of the stereotypes. I can't let them get away with that. Frank, your entire career is based on stereotypes. First up is the ESFJ, who the experts say they're friendly and hospitable because they cherish tradition and emphasize excellent manners. Another expert says that ESFJs are considerate and empathetic and sweet to be around. Sure, I guess so, if we're going with the stereotypes. But I got some news for you. Despite the experts in this article saying that ESFJs are sensitive to the needs of those around them, that doesn't mean that ESFJs are just like slaves to making sure that you feel happy. Now, yes, at their best, at their most healthy, an ESFJ is gonna make sure that everyone's happy. But the thing is, ESFJs, they have dominant extroverted feeling, right? And extroverted feeling is looking at the spectrum of emotions. They're looking at not just what do people feel, but is that the appropriate thing to feel? They're aware of how people feel in certain situations, how they value things, do they like something or not? And from that, they synthesize this idea of what everyone should generally feel, how people should generally value something. This gives ESFJs a very keen sense of what is appropriate and not appropriate. So do you see where I'm going here? Because if you fall outside of the range of what they consider to be appropriate in whatever way, maybe you are rude, or maybe you just don't like something that they think you should like, or it could just be everyone in the group that you're in is feeling a certain way and you feel differently. You're gonna stick out to the ESFJ in those situations, and they are gonna come after you in a way that you're not gonna like them very much. Yes, the FJ types who have extroverted feeling, they really value harmony, emotional harmony. But that doesn't mean it's all good harmony. They just want the harmony. As an extreme example, if you are at a funeral with an ESFJ, you know, the appropriate thing to feel at a funeral is like kind of sad, somber, etc. But if you're the kind of guy who laughs at a funeral, the ESFJ is gonna, they're coming after you, dog. It's a similar thing for the ENFJ, which comes up next on this list of most likable personality types, according to yahoo.com. According to an expert, people who have this personality type are especially magnetic since they don't want to leave anybody out. They love to organize and plan events and take great pains to encourage everyone to take part and enjoy themselves. Yes, that's pretty true. If you have an ENFJ who is organizing something, you've met ENFJs before. They're the kind of people who's like, hey buddy, they come out of nowhere. If you're the person who's like off by yourself, they come out of nowhere. They're like, hey buddy, get involved. Hey, you look a little sad. Let's cheer you up. Here's where I'm starting to disagree though, with the experts. Maybe it's easier to see if you are yourself an FJ type, or in general, if you have extroverted feeling, which the ENFJs have. They're dominant extroverted feelers. There is an undercurrent beneath extroverted feeling that is like not happy. I mean, it's not like sad or whatever. It's this like sharpness to it. It's the sharp TI. And yes, even though ENFJs have inferior introverted thinking, every ENFJ I've met has it, and it like you could just feel it. It just comes out. And here's another interesting thing, and I think this especially happens with types that have introverted feeling as opposed to extroverted feeling, which might make the ENFJ a little less likable to those types, is that a lot of times those types read extroverted feeling as being fake. And it's because the extroverted feelers generally try to put on, you know, some kind of happy face to get along. Extroverted feeling is very go with the flow for the most part. Sometimes it can be very punch you in the face, but for the most part, extroverted feeling is just trying to like, imagine like all the people in a social situation are rocks, and extroverted feeling is just the water going around it, not trying to make any waves I'm kind of mixing up the metaphor a little bit. Not trying to unearth the rocks from the river, but just going around it, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, yes, a lot of people look at ENFJs or any FJ type really and be like, you are fake. And it's not that they're being fake, but there is a little layer of fakeness to extroverted feeling. So yes, it is genuine, but it's also like, it's sort of an act. And the FJ types know this, and we're just like, so what? That's just what you do. You just put on a little show for people. That's extroverted feeling. But to the introverted feelers, the FP and the TJ types, they're like,
oh my gosh, that person, I don't like them because they're fake. They're faker-dakers.
Next on the list, the experts have ISFJs. Do you sense a pattern intuitively? It's all these FJ types, topping the list as the most likable. ISFJs are extremely likely to be captivating to others, say the experts. ISFJs may not be bubbly or chatty, but they do have a quiet charm which lends feelings of safety and warmth to those around them. That's true. The ISFJs just kind of have this quiet charm about them, and people just like being around them. ISFJs, though, because they're an FJ type, they've got extroverted feeling, they can also suffer from what I talked about with the last type of getting this rap for being kind of fake. When you really get to know an ISFJ, you get to talk to them and they let their guard down a bit, the extroverted feeling is toned down and you realize, oh, this is a pretty logical, calculated person who really isn't like that emotional. And here's the thing about ISFJs that isn't often talked about, but I think it has the potential to make them unlikable. Namely, that they have a certain intensity to them that isn't often acknowledged. You know, the ISFJs get presented as like, oh, these caring nursemaids. But no, they definitely have a very strong intensity. When an ISFJ has really taken the time to work something out for themselves, when they know their path forward, what works for them, how they are going to solve the problems that matter to them, and they've figured out the exact procedure and way to do it, if you start to like get in their way, they'll run you over. They might even uncharacteristically bite your head off over it. Because for the ISFJs, they have the introverted sensing, which is like the procedure. What's the first step, second step, so on and so forth. That's very natural for them. But then that thinking part, which is how am I solving the problems that actually matter to me? That's a little bit out of their comfort zone. So when you start to step on that, when they have taken the time to really work through that, you know, more difficult thinking side for them, if you get in their way, watch out. You're not gonna like them very much. Next on the list is the ENFP. I mean, yeah, of course, you knew it was coming. ENFPs, so likable, right? I mean, that's what the experts say. ENFPs can make others feel immediately at ease from the first encounter and have a natural skill of holding their audience's attention so they can win them over. ENFPs are genuinely authentic and are happy and willing to be fully true to themselves no matter who they're with. There is some truth to that. Like, so with an ENFP, for the most part, they're not really hiding a lot. Here's the thing though. Yes, ENFPs are trying hard to win people over. ENFPs like to entertain others, but they really like, first and foremost, to be having fun themselves. They like to tell jokes and stuff and get people laughing, but the real fun of it for them is making themselves laugh. Being like, hey, I'm a funny guy. And so for ENFPs who maybe are not quite as developed or who maybe just don't care, they can just keep going and going and going, thinking they're so funny, just telling a bunch of jokes, and everyone else is just like tired of it. They're just like, dude, can we please stop joking around? Dude, it's your Aunt Hilda's wedding. I mean, funeral. Stop joking. Also with the authenticity thing, I mean, shouldn't this immediately raise a few red flags? When people are fully authentic and what you see is what you get, that means they're not doing what those FJ types are doing, which is kind of
twisting and contorting themselves
in order to make sure people are happy. ENFPs, along with pretty much any FP type, is just like, if you don't like me, sucks to be you. And that's the thing with ENFPs, is that a lot of people like them. They're generally very funny, and yes, fun to be around, but they're not gonna change themselves for someone else, and if you don't like who they are, they're like extremely unlikable. Because I think a lot of times the ENFPs think it's funny. They pick up on the fact that you don't like them and they're just like, I'm gonna double down on that. I'm gonna crack this person. I mean, look, ENFPs aren't psychopaths, right? They do have a side where on the one hand, they will go hard after you. They might engage in a lot of teasing and you might not like that. But they do have that soft side where later they'll be like, hey man, hope you know I was just joking, you know? But look, that's not for everyone. So is the ENFP just across the board likable? Depends. Likewise, we have the ESFP on the list next. They're social butterflies, according to the experts. They're extroverted and kind, always expressing true interest in what others think and feel. They do pull focus, which I guess means they're like, hey, look at me. But, say the experts, it's actually an endearing quality as opposed to an annoying one. Okay, well, I think some people might disagree. The experts say ESFPs like to make other people feel important and special, and that means it's exciting to spend time with them. It's true, it's exciting, but it's also tiring. The ESFPs will have a little bit of the same issue as the ENFPs, right? FI, that's what they have, introverted feeling, the FP types. What you see is what you get. So they do feel very authentic, but if you don't like what you get, then they're not likable. Because they're not gonna twist themselves into a pretzel to get your approval. Anecdotally, what I have witnessed is that ESFPs are a little less aggressive and likely to tease as the ENFPs are. I think ENFPs just love humor. Everything's this intellectual game to them. And you know, ESFPs, they love humor as well. Humans love humor, okay? The difference is ESFPs are, they just seem a little bit more chill. They might be a little bit more down to earth. You know, the intuitive types, they're disconnected from earth. The ESFPs, they have extroverted sensing. That's just like, let me live right now, what I can experience. And so yes, while stereotypically many ESFPs are into stuff like fashion, etc., which might on the surface seem not down to earth, once you get talking to them, they're pretty down to earth. I was trying to think of a different way to say down to earth, but down to earth. They're down to earth. Of course, the issue is for ESFPs with that extroverted sensing, they're probably one of the types who gets bored the most easily. Or perhaps you would say the easiest, if we wanted to use English correctly. And ESFPs just go all the time. They just always love to be doing something. They love to be out in the world and experiencing life. And if you are the same way, then it's great. But if you're not the same way, you're not gonna like being around them. You're gonna start to feel like the wet blanket. When I'm around ESFPs, this has taken me a long time to be comfortable with, just be like, nah, I'm out. I need to go to bed. So they're not gonna be the most likable people if you can't keep up with them or like learn to handle a way of extracting yourself from their presence when they wanna keep going. Last on the list, we have the INFJ. You will have noticed that all the FJ types made this list of the most likable personality types. There are some glaring omissions which we will talk about in a bit. But first, let's talk about what the experts have to say about INFJs. The experts say that INFJs are empathetic, always ready to help, and put others' happiness first. INFJs are selfless in nature and willing to put others before themselves. Now look, I get real uncomfortable when I hear talk like this because the way this is worded makes it seem like INFJs are just naturally more virtuous than other people. And this is not the case. Are INFJs selfless in nature? No. Not any more or less than any other personality type. Now yes, here is the kernel of truth that is hidden within that really grossly irresponsible statement. INFJs and really any J type, they have an extroverted decision-making function. INFJs have extroverted feeling, all the TJ types have extroverted thinking. When you have an extroverted decision-making function, you are looking out at others to help you make decisions. You might not be explicitly asking other people, hey, what do you think I should do? Although a lot of these types do that, but you aren't like high on yourself and being like, oh man, I definitely know exactly what to do, what decision to make here. So for the INFJs, just to go with this example, they have introverted thinking. So on the inside, they're like, I know logically what's gonna work. I know the decision that I wanna make, but because they prefer extroverted feeling, they can't go with that until they get the sense that other people would value that. It's like, oh, other people like that, other people are happy with it, these are the decisions that other people make. So yeah, they're kind of like putting others above themselves in that decision-making process, even if it's not like a conscious thing or something that you're gonna necessarily read from what they're saying. According to the experts, INFJs tend to go far for the people they value, they're tolerant, and they're easy to learn from or talk to. Now, I'll say, yeah, INFJs tend to be easy to learn from or talk to because, you know, that's kind of their thing. They like to teach people stuff, they like to talk with people, whatever. INFJs, yeah, they probably also go far for the people they value, but like, who doesn't do that? Are INFJs tolerant? I think that this is like, I don't know where they came up with this. I'm not saying INFJs are intolerant, I'm just not sure how they are more tolerant than other types. INFJs are good at seeing both sides of an argument, so yeah, they can be good in that sense where it's like, hey, I'm not gonna just like run to a snap decision about this. But the thing about INFJs that can be unlikable is that they have introverted intuition, which is very focused, and it can get tunnel vision and be like, I'm really just focused on like creating my future or creating a future for a group, but it's looking down the road into a future several steps ahead. That's what intuition does, it projects. And if you're kind of like on the edges or outside of the tunnel vision, INFJs can be pretty cold and make you feel like you don't matter at all to them. Especially with the more introverted INFJs. The more introverted an INFJ gets, the more that they are resting on their introverted thinking. And when you get those two together, introverted intuition and introverted thinking, like they pretty much act like they don't care about anything else except the things that they are focused on. And that's not particularly likable. All right, there are some glaring omissions about this list from the experts at Yahoo. The list is entirely feelers, and there are 6 on here, so there's only 2 feelers that didn't make the list, and that is the INFP and the ISFP, the dominant introverted feelers. I kind of get it. Okay, I understand why the INFP and ISFP are considered the least likable of all the feelers, because they're IP types, they're the least likely to try at all to meet anyone halfway. The IP types, all of them are just doing their own thing. INFPs and ISFPs can seem like total jerks to other people because they're just like focused on the thing that they want to do. They're like, oh, this is cool, I like this, I'm going after this is my dream, I'm following my heart. And it leaves everyone behind in the dust. These types can also seem very stubborn to other people because they just want to do their own thing. They don't listen to reason. But I'll say that the other side of it is these types are generally pretty likable. You know, I think these types, despite having that kind of hard-headed nature, also don't really want to get into any conflict. So they're gonna play nice with you. And you know, if we said with the ENFP, what you see is what you get, they're very authentic, that's even more so for the INFP and ISFP. They're very authentic people. They're not really like trying to change themselves for you at all. So yeah, that runs the risk of them being very unlikable for you, but they could also be very likable. And there is just something charming about someone who is 100% themselves with no apology, even if it is very annoying. Also missing from this list are all the thinkers. I think that this is a big miss because in many ways, I think the thinking types can be some of the most likable. Because the thinking types, you know, I don't know, they get a bad rap, I guess, because they just tell it how it is, they're so logical, they're rude, they don't care. This is a lot of stereotypes, okay? There are plenty of thinking types who are nice people who realize, okay, I gotta be polite, I gotta have that like baseline. I can't just tell people, you know, F you. I mean, I feel like in some ways you might be more likely to get an F you from an INFP than you would from like an ISTJ, for example. What are the things that the thinkers really have an advantage of when it comes to likability is I feel like they are less likely to get involved in the kind of drama that the feelers will. Because when feeling types get involved in some kind of conflict, in some kind of drama, it's all about emotions. And it's like, how do we sort that out? It's like you feel something, I feel something, okay, whatever. But with thinking types, if they're getting into conflicts, they're going to try to sort it out more logically. They're not going to get as embroiled in all the BS of the emotions. Yes, of course, they have emotions and that will play into it, but ultimately they're going to be like, okay, as upset as I am, as mad or sad or whatever as I am, as much as I hate this person, blah, 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 I've got to actually address the issue, the problem, work through it. Let's try to find a solution. Maybe we can't, maybe we can, but at least it's more clear. Feelings, emotions, they're not clear. They're like a cloud. Thinking, it's a lot more cut and dry. So yeah, I think the experts over at Yahoo did the thinkers dirty. For me personally, for example, I would put the ENTP somewhere towards the top of the most likable of the 16 personalities. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay cool and attractive.
They say strangers come to town.